Hello and welcome to Get Rich Slow, the podcast that challenges the conventional get rich quick ideology and instead explores what authentic success really means and how you can achieve it. I'm Hannah Martin, the founder of Talent Ladies Club, and today I am joined by Facebook ad specialist Joe Francis for an episode on toxic clients. So hello Joe.
Hi Hannah.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'd like to start by asking a question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what does success mean to you?
I think success, honestly, for me, is about personal freedom. It's very much about the freedom to come and go as I want. It's the freedom to spend my days as I choose. And it's the freedom to be able to earn what I want. And that's probably completely different to other people's earning massive amounts of money. But for me, it's finding a comfort level and that balances basically income and freedom.
Well, do you know, it's funny, and this is why I'm doing the podcast, but of all the people I've asked that question to, no one has said money first. You know, they've never said, oh, it's to earn £1 million. Money's always been enough money to afford the lifestyle I want. So I think actually for most people, that is probably what success truly means.
Yeah, I've always felt like you never feel richer. So when I've had sort of massive months and when I've had normal months, I don't do anything different. It's not like, oh God, I've had an amazing month, I'm going to go and splash on X, Y, and Z. I'm a solid saver. If I've got excess money, it goes in a savings account. So yeah, on the big months, I've probably saved more money, but my lifestyle is my lifestyle, and that demands a certain amount of money, and that's the amount of money I want to comfortably achieve. And that makes me happy because then I can, work the hours that I want, sort of see my friends and family and live the lifestyle that I want. But actually, if I got sort of 10x that amount of money, I probably still wouldn't do anything different. So it makes it unnecessary, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was thinking once, if I did get £1 million or £2 million given to me, what would I spend it on? And like you, I would put it in a pension. I wouldn't even change my car. I wouldn't want a Maserati or anything like that, because it's really funny. Like, we think that money is the thing we aspire to, but as you say, when we have money, we don't actually really want more than the lifestyle we've got often.
No, it's so true. It is, and what most people want is time. And whilst you can't buy time, as long as you have enough money made in the time that you want to work, then it does allow you that extra time, whether that's to go to the gym, walk the dog, do whatever it is you want to do, but those things suddenly become the priority. And I don't know whether that's an age thing, whether people younger aspire to more money because they want the material things, and the older you get, you kind of see through that. And as you get older, time becomes the essential thing that is running out. I sound like an old lady.
I absolutely no, but not running out like in a Anyway, let's move on from death.
Cheery soul.
Yeah. So I really want to talk to you today about, because I know you're a successful freelancer, and I really want to talk to you about nightmare clients. But first of all, so you're a Facebook ads manager. What does that mean? What do you do?
Primarily, I help my clients to build successful sales funnels or marketing funnels, for those that don't like the word sales. And it's about raising their awareness, building their audience, and helping them to generate more leads by using Facebook and Instagram ads. I also work in email marketing, just because the two tie in so tightly, because I think if people drive leads through Facebook ads and then they don't have any effective email marketing in place, then there's every chance that those leads won't convert. So by covering both angles, we can make sure that all of the leads coming in then get nurtured until they ultimately become clients, and they're in creating a successful sales funnel.
It's that classic thing, isn't it? People focus so much on the top of the funnel, they don't think about the nurture process that those new leads are going to have to go through. And then you just spend money, wasting money on people who aren't going to have the full experience to be able to buy.
That's it. And there is no magic bullet in business. There is no, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's networking, whether it's TV advertising, whatever it is you do, nothing is a magic bullet. Nothing is going to bring people to you without you doing a little bit more than just that one thing. And that's where email marketing is good, because sort of once you have that trust from people to give you their email address, then you have access to keep in touch with them, to keep promoting your products. And the rules of marketing haven't changed in the last 20 years in terms of things like the 7 touch points. People need to see more of you, to trust you and to know who you are, and that allows that, and that is backed up with Facebook ads, because if you can keep presenting ads to people, showing people different aspects of your business, not always selling, sometimes giving value, sometimes giving them a video to watch or a blog to read, then those touch points happen quite quickly, and that just pushes people further along and quicker, really.
Excellent. And so in working with people, helping them with their Facebook ads and email marketing, who's your ideal client?
Realistically, I think I always want to work with people who are open to collaboration. So I like to feel part of someone's business, but not working for them. So I like people to understand that collectively we are a team, so I am helping them to achieve their objective, but I need them to help me as well. It's not just one of those things where you can go, yeah, I want some ads, just get on with it. I have to understand people's business. I have to really get under the skin of it, to know what their objectives are, what drives them, what the key points of their service or their product. So it's really, really important to work with people that know how to work collaboratively. And I think, again, it's back to the magic bullet thing. I need people to know that this is not just a set and forget one hit and all of these leads are going to pour in. So it's about people who have an understanding that any form of marketing is a risk. Any form of marketing takes work, it takes time. I don't waste people's budget. I really do treat people's budgets as if they were my own money, and I'm quite tight. So it's really important to me that people do see success, but they need to understand that success looks like a lot of different things. There's success at the top of the funnel, which is building your audience, making more people aware of who you are. That's not necessarily, you don't get a financial return on that. How much money did we make? You didn't make money, you grew your audience. And it's understanding all those different facets. So it's people that really are invested in their marketing rather than looking for this solution so that they can sit back and do less work. And for me, the majority of the time, it's more established businesses, because I think people who are very new in their business journey, as much as I don't want to repel them and say, like, I never want to work with you, I think you need to be sort of at least a year in, really, to have done all of the organic legwork that they need to do. So sort of have spent some time working out who they are, who they want to attract, who their audience are, got their website, got their socials up and running, and have started to know who that they're doing business with. Because when we start our own businesses, almost everyone says, I'll work with anybody. Anybody, they're all my customers, all my clients, anybody. And I think the more established you become in business, you realise that actually that's not a thing. You don't want to work with everybody. Everybody is not your customer, and you start to learn a lot more. So yeah, for me, preferably people who are a bit further down the line.
Okay. And what about a nightmare client? What qualities or lack of qualities might a difficult client have?
Oh my goodness, I have so many red flags now. I think one of those really ties into to the ideal client thing. The nightmare client for me is that client who just wants to be the boss, is an order giver, micromanager, just fires tasks over, and basically treats freelancers and other business owners like their employees, because that is not what we are. And you can almost track those people from the start of an inquiry. Sometimes you see online these inquiries, I'm looking for, it might be a Facebook ad strategist, send your CV over. I'm sorry, I haven't had a CV for 10 years. I can certainly send you to my website. But that for me is the initial red flag now, because these people, that's their train of thought and that's how they work. And there are so many more that I think, as you dive into it, people who don't respect your personal time, who can't respect your business hours, don't appreciate holidays and weekends. I literally now have a list of these things that I will not do. You can call them rules, you can call them boundaries, but they are the things that I didn't have in place at the beginning of my business, and I think they do come through time, and once you have them, they are the indicators of all your red flags.
I mean, I was a freelancer for years, and I agree with that. Like, when you start out, you're just like, oh, I've got a client, and then over time, and it's always by learning the hard way that you start to kind of put these things in place. So if someone is starting out, that's a really good first tip. If someone asks your CV, that's an indication that maybe they're seeing you in a different way to actually how they should be seeing you. Are there any other simple red flags that people, maybe someone who's less far down the freelance journey than you, might look out for?
I think you need to, I guess, look at them. It's not without desperation, but you need to assess their business as much as they're assessing yours, because I think there are indicators of things to be aware of. Are they currently working with a freelance team? If you're replacing somebody, like what happened to them? Don't be afraid to ask those questions, because you will find that if there is someone who's worked their way through a lot of freelancers, that actually there might be a problem there. And I think it does come down to having your own boundaries, and it will be assessing how those boundaries sit with that client. So I guess really the avoidance of toxic clients is to clearly work out, whether you write it down, you don't have to share it with anybody, but create that list, that rules list, that boundaries list, and work those things into, whether it's a conversation or an email. And I sit and I have my my list is here, and I don't I don't work before I've had any pay, and that's a really tricky one for a lot of freelancers to get their head around. What do you mean? You ask them to pay you in advance? Yeah, I do. And it took me a long time to get here, because anyone that comes from an employed background, you work a month and then you get paid. It doesn't have to be like that just because you're freelance. Why should you take that risk with a complete stranger to invest all of this time? You don't know them. They don't know you. I get that they don't know you. There are things like escrow accounts, if that's a concern, for them giving money to someone they don't know. But they need to put their money where their mouth is before you do any work for them. And now I don't do anything without getting paid, because I don't have the time to chase money, and I don't want to be chasing money. So that's a really important thing for me. I work what I still call quite corporate hours. I actually do less than corporate hours. I generally work sort of 9 till 3, and I don't do any work in the evening. I don't work at the weekends. If that was a problem for someone, then they are not the right person for me, and I'm not the right person for them. And I think you soon understand, everyone's red flags are different. So you soon understand what's going to be a trigger for you and not work well for you by laying out your boundaries. And I've actually done mine in a blog format now. I write a lot of content, and part of that is to attract and repel the right people. And I think you shouldn't be afraid to create repelling content. And this blog is literally, who shouldn't work with me. And so, when I do get inquiries in, I send them quite a lot of content. Here's something to read, and I'm like, and do check this out, because I think you're going to like this. And I get them to read it, because if there's something on there that they think, oh my God, she doesn't work at the weekends, then that's instantly going to kind of end the relationship there, and neither of us have wasted our time. And I think that's really important.
I think that's a really, really good idea, actually. And for anyone listening to this, if you do produce content, do that, right? Who's my ideal client and who's not, and let people read that before they work with you. Because as you say, it's fine. If someone needs someone that works the weekend, that's absolutely fine, but you're just not the right person for them. When I was freelancing, there's something I learned, and actually also applies to friendships and other relationships as well, is that if you meet someone and they've got nothing but a long list of complaints about everyone else they've worked with, it was always their fault, and they've had bad person after bad person, then it's a sign that maybe it's not the people that were wrong, but it was the client. And you're saying friendship. So if you meet someone that's got nothing but a complaint about all their other friends, then maybe they're just a toxic friend.
Yeah, and that's it. And all of those things, and sort of, when I was working with a client, and she would kind of like message me every day to kind of have a little moan or a little slag off of the other people in the team, and I sort of thought, I'm the privileged one, and sharing all of their inner gossip, and I was like, maybe I'm the favourite. And then it kind of dawned on me that no, if she's actually doing that, like, to me about them, that everything that I said, because when you've worked with a client for years, you will drop in a bit about your personal life, and the boyfriend's doing this and doing my head in, and then suddenly everybody knew it, and I was like, I'm so stupid. And you sort of start to learn these traits about people, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's happening.
I'm not telling you anything in future.
Yeah, exactly.
So, obviously it's not necessary to work with a bad client, a nightmare client, a toxic client. But actually, there are really good reasons why. And what are some of those, do you think? Like why, if someone especially if someone doesn't have a lot of work, why shouldn't they take on someone that they think might be difficult?
Oh, I think it's really, really hard, certainly, in your early days, to turn down money. And that has such a big impact on us. We all need to earn money, and you do open your doors and kind of say, well, yeah, I will work with anybody. So making that decision that actually you won't, it can feel like you're damaging your own business, or you're damaging your own potential. And I think I can only reassure people that they're not, because actually the damage it does on you, I think it's such an easily bandied around word now, but your mental health. And, I'm not someone who's ever suffered with any kind of depression or mental health problems. I've been really fortunate. I'm very resilient. I love working on my own. I'm very insular anyway. But still, that absolute dread of getting to your desk, or that Sunday night dread that you only thought you ever would have when you were, working for a horrible employer, or any employer, however you view it. When that starts to creep in and it's your own business, then there is an imbalance, and it shouldn't be like that. And I don't say I skip to my desk every day, but there is nothing about my working day now that I don't like. There are no clients that I don't like or I feel uncomfortable with. But I had one client who was so unlimited in terms of not knowing the boundaries that I wouldn't scroll on social media in the evening because I knew they would see me online. So I've turned off all my notifications on WhatsApp so that they wouldn't see me online. I was like, I'm living like some kind of hostage. And it's just because I knew that if they saw me, they'd message me, and if they messaged me and I didn't respond back, then it would just go into this kind of, you're not interested and you're not giving me the respect I deserve. And I've just, those kind of things are just so damaging, and they're damaging for your personal life, because you're then not kind of interacting with people outside of work, online, which is kind of a really vital way of interacting with friends and your wider circles. So I think those kind of things are just, they shouldn't happen.
Yeah, and I say, you talk about, a client saying, oh, you're not respecting me. I think there's a lack of respect if they are watching your activities. They're not respecting you as a human being who said that I don't work at these hours. You're free to be online after that. But I would say, I think that's all very true. And I think it's the emotional side of a bad client. I had a friend who's a freelancer, and she worked with a very difficult client. And this client kept telling her she was no good, kept criticising her. And by the time she eventually broke off that relationship, she felt like giving up because it had completely killed her self-esteem. And she was brilliant at what she did. But it took her a long time to recover from that. And I think it's really important to think that it's a bit like an abusive relationship. Over time, the drip, drip, drip of negative feedback and comment and lack of appreciation and respect can change how you feel about yourself. So I think it's really important to avoid those people.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, for me, I'm incredibly loyal, and loyalty seems to be one of those things that can bite you on the arse, basically, because I find it very hard to walk away from people that I feel have invested in me. And, you know, they've invested in me, I've invested in them. I feel like we've grown together. But you have to kind of step aside from your personal feelings and look at your business as a business. And you know, the danger with loyalty that I had, you know, I had a client for nearly 7 years, and when you join or when you take on that client, the person you are then and what you want to earn then and your skill sets then can be vastly different to where you are 7 years later. And actually, you know, what I realised was how much I'd held myself back by hanging on to this client that I felt was important because they were using a large volume of my time. But actually what they've done is stifle my business growth and stifle me. And that's through my own loyalty. So I'm not blaming them. You know, I'm as much to blame, because you stop looking around at what's available, who else might want to work with you, and there are toxic things that can creep in. You know, this particular client wanted me to give them more time and give up the rest of my clients, which I rallied against because actually I liked the variety more than anything else. But they, you know, they pushed and pushed for that, and you sort of think, actually, if I'd have done that, I'd have been in a worse position. But part of you thinks, oh, well, you know, it's guaranteed time and guaranteed money and familiarity. You know, familiarity is a big thing because you're used to them. You know, who wants to try and wade through new clients and go through that whole awkward, it's like a new relationship, isn't it? When you've got familiarity. But these are the things that you need to really be conscious of. And, you know, someone that I know you're familiar with, Catherine Gladwin, has a book, which is the 20% rule. And that never a truer word has been spoken, because you should never let one client take up more than 20% of your time, because you become too dependent on them, and in turn they become too dependent on you, and it becomes this codependency, which just isn't healthy. So it's really important to kind of spread yourself a little wider and have that variety and that number of different clients.
Absolutely, and you know, Catherine's book is brilliant. I also highly recommend anyone reads that. But I think it's a dangerous position to be in, like you say, if one client takes up too much of your business, because what if that one client disappears one day, and then you are left with a business without enough other business to support you. But also, as you say, it does lend itself to the potential of abuse, because that person knows how important they are to you, and they can make demands. If they're not a very ethical person, they can make demands that they shouldn't probably be doing. What should someone do if they're listening to this and are thinking, actually, I'm beginning to think that I may have a client that's not good for me? How should they manage that? Because it's not easy to just dump a client. So what's your advice on how they handle that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the first to say that dumping clients is incredibly hard. You know, the experience that I had with the most toxic client, I would love to say that I had very professionally parted company with them. But I did what I don't recommend other people do, which is my kind of annoying boyfriend tactic, which is where it did work, to be honest. I started setting in place my boundaries in hindsight, and they did not like that, and therefore I knew I was managing them out, but I knew that they would end the relationship, and that for me proved effective. So I think if we're going to be totally grown up about it, you have to remember it's your business, your rules, and you should, just make that decision, and do it with integrity and honesty and with notice. So, for example, if I were in that situation now, and 100% what I should have done is just given notice and just said, look, this isn't working for me anymore. These are the reasons why. I'm really sorry. I'm quite happy to give you 3 months notice, and then I think we should call it a day. And that's the ideal in the adult world. If that makes you uncomfortable, as it did me, and the reason it did for me more than anything else apart from the relationship with the client was because at the time that was probably 75% of my time allocation. So we're talking sort of 100 to 120 hours a month for one client. So making that decision was just too big a decision to make for my business. But what I decided that I would do was start to implement my boundaries and see how that played out. It would either improve the relationship or end the relationship. So I wasn't available after 5 o'clock. I wasn't available at the weekends. I would set my holiday, I'm going to be on holiday from this and this date. Oh, but you'll have your laptop. No, I won't have my laptop. I'm going on holiday, or it's Christmas. I won't be opening my laptop. And so by implementing those boundaries, which were important to me, they did not land well. And I knew they wouldn't. And, as we moved into the pandemic and sort of dynamics changed again, the things that I would and wouldn't do weren't acceptable, and so that for me that ended that relationship. But I think you have to just try and be as honest as you can, and realize that this isn't, it's not a love relationship, and more than likely if there was someone better or cheaper, or they would move on quite quickly themselves. So don't feel that overwhelming sense of loyalty that I felt, that you're not letting anyone down. You are a business, and if you can give notice, then you're allowing them time to find someone else.
Absolutely, yeah, that's really good advice. And I think, and also, if someone does feel really uncomfortable and they are sort of implement different things, you can give them a choice. So you can almost say, like, going forward, this is how I want to work. I appreciate if that's not what you want, and I will totally understand if you want to end this relationship. And it kind of gives that, if someone is a particularly toxic person, they probably like to be in control. And if you also want to manage it so that you don't necessarily leave on really bad terms, that this person might speak badly about you, so you can almost make it them feel, and it sounds like in your situation partly that was sort of really what happened, is you made it them feel like it was their choice, but you manoeuvred that situation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I knew that there would be certain things that this client found unacceptable, and they were things that, to be honest, I should have been doing sooner, and there was a whole lot of dynamics that I won't go into, but lots of mean girls tactics going on, within the team anyway. But one of the things that I knew would be a trigger was this particular client specified how much time per week that they wanted me to allocate, and then if I didn't do something, they would then not feed me any work, or not tell me what they wanted me to do with that time. And so I was left with this time that's supposed to be booked for them, but time wasn't being used. And I said, well, that's fine. I'll just invoice them the time. They've booked my time, and that's something that should have always happened. But I've been a bit flexible, and I don't like to. And then I was finally like, no, you cannot keep saying that you want this amount of time from me, and then deciding because something's happened or something's triggered you that you're not going to use it. And I knew the moment that I sent the invoice in with time booked, time used, but still the invoice for the full time booked, that would be the ultimate trigger. And you can say, oh, you probably didn't really know. I sort of have a collective of business friends, again, Catherine being one of them, that I run all of these things past. And I was able to say, right, I've just sent that invoice. This is going to be like the death knell for this relationship. And it was. And I think those kind of things I should have put in place sooner, but I think I knew what the triggers were to end the relationship, so I was able to kind of, make it happen. But I don't think everybody will always know that. And I think you should be really strong in knowing things like your price point. For me, working for someone for 7 years, it feels very harsh to say, actually, my rate, I don't even work on an hourly rate now, but 2 years ago, my hourly rate should have been kind of at least 3 times what I started on. But because I was loyal, it wasn't. And it's very hard to say to the same client, I know you've been with me all this time, but actually my hourly rate should be this, because that's what I'm getting from everybody else. But that's what it is. It's business. And if you're not getting it from them, you should be getting it from someone else. And I think you have to be really analytical and say, okay, if that client is paying me a third of what I'm worth, then even if I got like one new client offering me 60% less time, I'm still not worse off. And it took me a little while to realise that, even though I'm a bit of a maths genius. and I just suddenly realised, now, like, I used to do 100 to 120 hours a month for this client. I don't even do 100 hours a month in total. And so I'm earning more money, working less, working smarter, and it blows your mind, but it just takes one step to kind of move away and see things more clearly.
Absolutely. I just want to, we haven't touched on money, and actually I think it's 2 really important points. One is, another red flag is that someone tries to negotiate with you and haggle with you, because it shows a lack of respect. You put your prices out and you're saying, this is my value. Psychologically, when someone comes back and says, well, I'll pay you less, you say, like, I don't value that at that. And that could be a red flag. I think, and also, like, people using your time. I had a friend and a freelance client asked her to drive. It's a 6-hour drive. Asked her to drive over to their office and spend the day with them, but it was all unpaid. She was afraid to ask for either expenses or her time travelling for that, because she felt that it was part of the job. And I said, and flip this round. If you said to them, they're salaried, okay, they're an employee, on a Sunday, will you drive 6 hours to my house and a day you're not being paid and do it? And they said, well, they wouldn't do that. I said, well, no. And always flip it round. If you feel obliged to do something that someone asks of you, think, would they do that if someone asked the same of them? And if not, that should give you the courage and the confidence to say no and to put boundaries in place there.
Yeah. And I think what we do, we don't tend to sort of value your own offering. And you sort of think, I would never go into the hairdressers and, how much is it for a cut and finish? £70. Oh, okay. Couldn't do it for 60, could you? When would you ever do that? Because somewhere like a hairdresser, the price is the price. Having your tyre changed, the price is the price. But for some reason, because we're online or because we offer a service that people can't, isn't tangible, it's supposed to be acceptable. And I suppose you could kind of knock that down a bit. No, I don't suppose I could. Discounting, absolutely 100% not a thing. I absolutely don't do it. And on that point that you make about doing that kind of thing for free, I can only kind of come back to this client and the pandemic, and we were all asked as a freelance team, we weren't asked, kind of more told, that every day there would be a meeting, and we were all to turn our timers off for this free meeting every day, because basically, she was the hand that feeds us, and therefore we needed to invest ourselves into her business to make sure that nothing affected it during the pandemic. And at first you kind of go, okay, in a way I see what you're saying, but what are you going to do to help me make sure that my business survives the pandemic, well, you know, I'm like paying you. Well, yeah, but no, I mean, you know, my business needs to grow as well. And so it was supposed to be this kind of free-for-all ideas station every single day. And I was just like, no, not happening, absolutely not happening. And again, that, you know, that sort of, that's where the boundaries came in. And you know, bearing in mind being 6 weeks into the pandemic, when you kind of, you know, I had a child being homeschooled, an ex-husband with COVID, I had other clients, and it just wasn't possible. And yeah, you know, kind of part of it was my refusal to show up every day and saying things like, I've got other clients to, you know, to tend to, just weren't acceptable. So yeah, I think, you know, that whole work for free or do things that other people wouldn't expect to do, absolutely flip it on its head and see if that person would do it for you, because it's highly unlikely that they will.
Or in your case there, it's like, well, okay, I'll turn up to these free meetings, but I presume I'm going to get a percentage of extra profits that might be made via these meetings. It's all a bit one way, isn't it? You give me your free time, and if it really works, brilliant for me, because I'm going to reap all this money, but I'm not going to pay you anymore.
Yeah, or, you know, or sort of half an hour a day. So you know, when are you going to invest 2.5 hours a week in my business to help me grow my business so that I stay, you know, afloat and my business grows? It just, the flip side just never happens. And yeah, I think you just start to realise things like that, and yeah, it's time to call it a day.
So now for the happy ending, I presume. So we've talked about, you know, your experience of a toxic client, that you managed yourself, you know, this relationship ended, and you said they're about 70-75% of your time.
Yeah.
What happened when that finished?
Well, I mean, it was really, really abrupt. So it finished very quickly. And it was literally after 7 years, it was an email on a Sunday night saying kind of like, that's it. I'd say, which I knew was coming. But I was very fortunate in the fact that I don't contract my clients. And you know, I've always been quite open and honest about that. This particular client, through their own levels of insecurity and things that had gone on, had contracted. So actually they'd put in place a 3-month notice period either way. So I was able to highlight that back to them, which meant that they had to pay me for 3 months, you know, which softened the blow. And I was really, really fortunate that so many people through this client had been given the impression that I was an employee. So when I allowed myself to become more visible, partly through having more time, and partly through I mean, I'm a marketer. I know how to market myself. I know how to market my business. I just hadn't, because I was at capacity for such a long time. So I was really fortunate that as soon as I did pop my head above the parapet, people were like, oh, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know that was a thing. And I literally went back to capacity within 4 weeks. So I was really, really fortunate. I'd made a lot of connections anyway that I wasn't kind of making use of. I just sort of, as you do on LinkedIn and Facebook, you connect with all the people as you go through these walks of life. And yeah, I just kind of reached out to my network there and made people more aware of my availability. And my time just filled back up, but my time didn't fill up to the capacity that it was at before, because I was able to realign my whole business, really focus on the areas that I wanted to focus on. Because when I started my business 10 years ago, I was a marketing VA, and it's just through the passage of time that I specialised in and retrained and made sure that I niched into my areas, which are Facebook ads and email marketing. So I cut out everything that I didn't want to do, and I was able to really focus specifically on those areas, market those areas really specifically, and just picked clients up, say quite easily, but it was quite easy. It was great.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say,
Yeah.
my first year away from that client, financially, I had my absolute best year ever, and it was in the middle of a pandemic, and it was kind of, it was around 70% more than I'd ever earned. So it was a great awakening, really.
That's brilliant. And it does echo when I've spoken to other people who have made changes like that. You know, predominantly most of them say that they've had a good experience and they have replaced people. They've worked hard to do it, but they've never regretted making that break.
No, I 100% don't regret it. And I think you have to kind of shake yourself off, because, you know, this particular client made a lot of it feel like it was a me problem, and you don't want to be part of a team because you don't want to do this and you don't want to work outside of these hours, and so I kind of came away from it and I was like, right, yeah, no, I probably don't want to be part of a team, and that's probably right. And actually, you need to kind of step back and reassess yourself. And whilst I am quite insular and I do love working on my own in terms of my sort of physical environment, I am part of a team now, and you know, I work for myself still, but I also work within an agency, and they are probably all of them 20 years younger than me. I mean, I always tell them I've got salads in my fridge older than them, and I absolutely love it. You know, I love the vibe. I love, we've got, we're all in Slack, and you know, no one is on top of each other. No one's checking whether I'm at my desk at 9 o'clock. But I do love being part of a team. And so I've been able to build up that side of the business, sort of the collaborative side, working, you know, with other agencies, and you know, making complete changes to my business. But you have to really step away from the negativity that gets into your head, because, you know, don't let someone else define you, and you do just find your own space.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. There's a lot of experience and advice and wisdom about clients, but if we had to end on your advice, if someone was to be a successful freelancer, what is your top line advice for them?
I think clearly work out what you want to do. Do the things that you enjoy. Do the things that make you happy and that you're good at. And don't underestimate your value. I think it's really easy to be, I've only been in business for 6 months. So, you know, your time in your business isn't your value. You know, what you do is your value, and that value to someone who doesn't do that is massive. You know, I don't ask my accountant, well, how long exactly have you been in business? That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that he can do my accounts, save me tax, and take the pressure off on that side of the business. So that's what you're paying for, is what someone can do for you, and that's what you're being paid for. So don't underestimate how valuable you are. I think that's really, really important.
Excellent. I totally concur. And so if someone's watching this and listening to this and they want to find you, where can they go?
My website is joefrancis.biz, B-I-Z, had to be different. I'm on Instagram, joefrancis74. I am on Facebook, Jo Francis, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Jo Francis, funnily enough.
Excellent. And you mentioned blogs. So do you have lots of helpful content if someone wanted to learn more about, I don't know, Facebook ads or freelancing? Or
I do, yeah. I have an absolute ton of content on Facebook ads. And there's also a lot of content on there that is usable in terms of the type of content that you can write for your own business. You know, I'm completely open and honest in terms of how I create my content. I am part of a membership group, and the guys that run the membership group wrote a book called The Content Fortress, and it's an absolutely amazing way to work out what to write about your business, and that basically helps you to build up all of the content that you could possibly need that will attract, repel, sell, bring leads to your business. So yeah, I've written an absolute ton of content that people can wade through.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jo, for your time today.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.